This is again Satyarth Prakash chapter 7, God and the Veda. The Vedas in many places clearly say that there is only one God. And what is meant by the mention of various devatas in the Vedas then? So, devata means actually whatsoever or whosoever who possesses useful and brilliant qualities is called a devata. This definition of devata is coming from the Nirukta, as translated by the late Pandit Guru Dattu Vidyarthi. So, Devata basically means in the Sanskrit dictionary, Nirukta, whatsoever or whosoever is capable of conferring some advantages upon us, capable of illuminating things, or capable of explaining things to us, and last of all, the light of all lights, those who are fit subjects to be called, those are the fit subjects to be called Devatas. For example, the earth is a Devata, but it is nowhere said that it is God or is the object of our adoration. Even in the above mantra, it is said that he who is the sustainer of all devatas is the adorable God and is worthy of being sought after. They are greatly mistaken who take the word devata to mean God. God is actually called the devata of devatas, greatest of all devatas, because he alone is the author of creation, sustenance, and dissolution of the universe, the great judge and the Lord of all. The Vedic text, the Lord of all, ruler of the universe, the sustainer of all, holds all things by means of 33 devatas. This has been explained as follows in the 14th chapter of the Shatapada Brahmana, which is heated cosmic bodies, planets, atmosphere, super terrestrial space, suns, rays of the ethereal space, satellites, stars. These are all called Vasus, the stars, because they are the abode of all that lives, moves, or exists. The 11 Rudras are the 10 Pranas, the forces enlivening the human body, and the 11th is the human spirit. These are called Rudras because when they desert the body, it becomes dead, and the relations of the deceased consequently begin to weep. The 12 months of a year are called the Adityas, as they call the lapse of the term of existence of each object of being. The all-pervading electricity is called Indra, as it is productive of great force. Yajna is called Prajapati, because it benefits mankind by the purification of air, purification of water, rain and vegetables, and because it aids the development of various arts, and because in it the honor is accorded to the learned and the wise. These 33 aforesaid entities are called devatas by virtue of possessing useful properties and qualities. Being Lord of all and greater than all, the Supreme Being is called the 34th devata, who alone is to be worshipped. The same thing is written in other Shastras. If people had consulted these books, they would not have fallen into this error, that is, believing that there are more gods than one mentioned in the Vedas. So, Ishavashyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyan jagat tena tyaktena punjida magrida kasya siddhanam. Magrida kasya siddhanam. Yajurvedam. By one supreme lorder, by one supreme lord, ruler, is this universe pervaded. Even every world in the whole circle of nature. He is the true God. Fear him, O man, and covet not unjustly the wealth of any existing creature. Renounce all that is unjust and enjoy pure delight. True spiritual happiness by the practice of justice and righteousness, which is another name for true religion. The question whether God has a form or is he formless, the answer is he is formless, because if he possesses a form, he could never be omnipresent, nor therefore omniscient, since a finite substance can only possess finite attributes, actions, and nature. So this is how Swami Dayananda explains it. And to the question, what does God desire? Swami Dayananda's answer is the good of all, the happiness of all, and he does not, by the caprice of his own will, subordinate one person to another without an offense. Glorification of God gives rise to love of the Supreme Being, reformation of one's nature, development of character and attributes in accordance with the nature, attributes, and character of God. Prayer creates humility, courage, and obtains divine help. Communion results in union with the great being and in direct cognition. An example of prayer to God is given here. Swami Dayananda quotes from Yajurveda. Tejosi tejomai dehi, Viryamasi Viryamai dehi, Balamasi Balamai dehi, Ojorasi Ojosi Ojomai dehi, Ojosi Ojomai dehi, Manyurasi Manyumai dehi, Sahosi Sahomai dehi. Translates as, Thou art light, be merciful and shed that light into my heart. Thou art infinite energy. Through thy grace endow me with unfailing energy. Thou art infinite strength, endow me with strength. Thou art infinite power, endow me with great power. Thou art wrathful with the wicked, make me also wrathful. Thou art moved neither by slander nor by praise. Thou art forbearing towards those who offend against thee, make me also forbearing. And another Vedic prayer from the Shatapatha Brahmana. Lead us, O Supreme Spirit, teacher of teachers, from falsehood unto rectitude, from darkness into light of knowledge, from death and disease to immortality and eternal happiness. So, it is Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrutyorma Amrutangamaya. Swami Dayananda puts across a very interesting point here. A man should act in accordance with what he prays for. For example, if he prays for attainment of highest wisdom, let him do his utmost to attain it. In other words, prayer should be addressed to God for the attainment of an object after one has strenuously endeavored to attain it. No one should pray in the following manner, nor does God ever answer such a prayer. For example, O Lord, destroy my enemies, make me superior to all, let me alone be honored by all, make all others subordinate to me, etc. Because if both enemies were to pray for each other's destruction, should God destroy both of them? Is somewhere to pray that, somewhere to say that of the two, let that man's prayer be granted who bears more love to God. We answer that the enemy of the man whose love is less should also suffer destruction in a lesser degree. If people begin to address such foolish prayers, the next thing they will do is they will pray to God like this: Oh God, cook our dinner for us, put it on the table. God, give us our daily bread. All this funny. Scrubbing our house, please scrub the house, do the mopping, do do our washing our clothes. Please till our land and do a little bit of gardening for us. The greatest fools are these who, trusting in God in this wise, remain slothful and indolent. Because whosoever will disobey God's commandment to work assiduously will never be happy. Never be happy. Because in Yajurveda, you see, God's commandment is like this. What is that? Kurvanneveha karmani jijivashet chatam samaha. Kurvanneveha karmani jijivashet chatam samaha. Let a man aspire to live by doing work for 100 years. That is as long as he lives. Let him never be lazy. Communion. The Sanskrit word is upasana. Upasana is communion. On this subject, the Upanishad says, no tongue can express that bliss which flows from communion with the Supreme Spirit into the soul of that man whose impurities are washed off by the practice of yoga, whose mind being abstracted from the outside world is centered in the Supreme Spirit. Because that happiness is felt by the human soul in its inner self alone. The word upasana literally means to come close to. All that is required in order to come close to God by the practice of the octapartite yoga, that is, Ashtanga yoga, and directly see the omnipresent, omniscient God should be accomplished. For him who desires to begin upasana, this alone is the beginning. Let him cease to bear malice. Cease to bear malice to any living being. Let him always love all. Let him always speak the truth, never an untruth. Let him never commit any theft. And let him be honest in his dealings. Let him practice self-control, never be lustful. Let him be humble, never vain. These five together comprise the first stage of Upasana and they are called the Yamas. Next come the Niyamas, which are also five. Let a man be clean internally by renouncing all passions and vicious desires. Externally, by taking bath regularly, free use of water. Let him work hard, righteously, but neither rejoice in the resulting profit nor be sorrowful in the case of loss. Let him renounce sloth and be always cheerful and active. Be always cheerful and active. Let him keep his mind unruffled. Third one, no matter whether he is happy or miserable, and do righteous deeds. Let him always study the books of true knowledge and teach them as well, and associate with good and pious people. Let him contemplate and mentally recite Om, which is the highest name of the Supreme Spirit. Let him resign his soul to the will of God. These five together constitute the second stage of the Upasana Yoga. The remaining six stages can be studied from the Yoga Shastra or this is the book on the yogas. Now, let us look at the shlokas. So, ahimsa satyamasteya brahmacharya aparigraha yamaha yoga shastra. Ahimsa satyam asteyam brahmacharya aparigraha, that is yamaha. That is from yoga shastram sadhana pade. Shaucha santosha tapa swadhyaya ishvara pranidhanani niyamaha. Shaucham is cleanliness. Shaucha santosha tapas swadhyaya ishvara pranidhanani niyamaha. Again, Yoga Shastra sadhana pada. Okay, with regards to the question, does God incarnate or not? Swami Dayananda says no. Because the Yajurveda says he is unborn, he overspreads all, he is pure, he is never born and never takes on a human form. That is what the Yajurveda says. So, Swami Dayananda says that the question was asked, that is, because Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glane bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So, Swami Dayananda says, this being opposed to the Veda cannot be held as an authority. Though it is possible that Krishna, being very virtuous and extremely anxious to further the cause of righteousness, might have wished that he would like to be born again and again at different times to protect the good and punish the wicked. If such was the case, there is no harm in it, because whatever the good and great possess, their wealth, their bodies, even their hearts, is all at the service of humanity. And in spite of all this, Krishna can never be God. Well, that is what Dayananda Swamiji says. If this be the case, then why do people believe in 24 incarnations of God? Dayananda says, from want of knowledge of the Vedas, from being led astray by the sectarians, and being themselves uneducated, people are involved in ignorance, and therefore no wonder people believe in all such false things. How could such wicked men as Ravana and Kamsa be destroyed if God did not incarnate? That is the next question. Firstly, whosoever is born is sure to die. Secondly, what are Kamsa and Ravana when compared to the Almighty God, who without being incarnated has created this world, is sustaining it and can dissolve it into its component elements. He being omnipresent also pervaded the bodies of Kamsa and Ravana and could at his will cut off their vitals and instantly kill them. What shall we call such a man but a fool who says that the Supreme Spirit, possessed of infinite power, attributes and activity, takes on a human form and becomes subject to birth and death in order to kill an insignificant creature? Were anyone to say that God incarnates for the salvation of his devotees, then too it would not be true. For if the devotees conduct themselves according to the will of God, he is powerful enough to save them. What is the destruction of Kamsa or Ravana or the lifting of a mountain such as Govardhan even more difficult than the creation, sustenance and dissolution of the sun, moon and the earth and other planets? Whosoever ponders over the great things that God has done in the universe cannot but come to the conclusion that there is none like him, nor shall ever be, nor can the incarnation of God be demonstrated by reason. Just as the saying of a man that space entered a womb or was put in a closed hand can never be true, for space being infinite and omnipresent can neither go in nor come out. Similarly, God being infinite and all pervading can never be predicated of him that he can go in or come out. Coming and going can be possible only if it is believed that there are places where he is not. Then was not God already present in the womb? When already present in the womb? And when was he? When was not he already present outside? That is said to have gone into and come out. Who but men devoid of intelligence can believe in and say such things about God? Therefore, it should be understood that Christ and others were also not incarnations of the deity. Being subject to passions and desires and hunger and thirst, fear and grief, birth and deaths, they were all men. Does God forgive the sins of his devotees or not? The answer is no. For were he to forgive their sins, his law of justice would be destroyed, and all men would become most sinful. Knowing that their sins will be forgiven, they will become fearless and will be greatly encouraged to commit sins. For example, if the ruler of a country were to pardon the criminals, they would be encouraged to commit more crimes, greater crimes, for knowing well that the king will not punish them. They will be confident in their minds that they will get the king's pardon by folding their arms and doing other acts of humility. Right? Even those who are not criminals, being no longer deterred by any fear of punishment, will begin to commit crimes. Therefore, it is but meet that God should give souls the just fruits of their deeds and not to forgive their sins. Is the human soul a free agent? Yes, it's a free agent in the matter of performing deeds, but it is subject to the laws of God in the matter of reaping the fruits thereof. He alone is said to be a doer who is free to act. What is a free agent? He is called a free agent who has a body, the vital forces, the senses, and the mind subordinate to his will. If the soul were not a free agent, it would not reap the fruits of his deeds, good or bad. Just as soldiers acting under the direction of their commanding officer are not held guilty of murder, even on killing any man on the battlefield. Similarly, if God were to influence the course of human conduct, or if human actions were subordinate to his will, it would not then be the human souls that would have to bear the consequences of those actions, but God himself. Being the prompter, he alone would suffer pain or enjoy happiness. Well, at this point, I think you see, I am reminded of that slokam, Nadate kashachit papam nachaiva sukrutam vibho, ajnanena avrtam jnanam tena muhyanti jantava. So Lord Krishna clearly says here, this is my interpolation here. Say, that is why we call it Leela. God does not, he is unborn, so there's no question of coming and going, getting into the womb and getting delivered, that's all out of question. And that is why we call it Leela. It is the Maya. We begin to think that such a thing has happened when actually no such thing has happened. Yes, by a mere thought. In fact, it is God's energy only that Ravana and Kamsa are being sustained by. So, by a mere thought, he can instantaneously kill them. That's also true. In spite of all that, the lessons are being taught to us, the humans who are, for the sake of tutoring them, all these incarnations. And otherwise God can easily do it with a snap of his fingers, or even just simply thinking Ravana can be killed. There's no need for Rama to go and fight him. That's it. Dayananda clearly agrees that soul was never created. The soul is beginningless, like God and the material cause of the universe. So this is stated again in the Bhagavad Gita. The Trinity are basically three eternal. That is Jivatma, Paramatma and Prakriti. The nature of soul is subtle, while God is still more subtle. Still more subtle, infinite, omnipresent, omniscient by nature. You see, are the souls in different bodies distinct, or is there only one soul pervading all? The answer is distinct. All the souls are distinct. Had there been only one soul pervading them, during the wakeful, slumber, deep sleep, birth and death, union and disunion with the body and senses, this could never take place. The nature of the soul is finite. So is its knowledge. God and human soul stand in relationship of the pervader and the pervaded. That is one who pervades. Hmm? Just as iron is gross while electricity is subtle, the latter pervades the former and resides in the same space with it. Similarly, the human soul is less subtle than God, while the latter more subtle than the former. Therefore, it is that God pervades the human soul, while the latter is pervaded by the former. I think I would like to add here, just as the soul pervades the body, God pervades the soul. Yajnavalkya in the Brihadaranyaka says, O Maitreyi, the great God resides within the soul and is yet distinct from it. The ignorant soul does not know that the Supreme Spirit pervades it. The soul is a body unto him. In other words, just as the soul resides in the body, so does God reside within the soul, and yet he is distinct from it. He witnesses the deeds, good or evil, of the soul, and gives it its deserts and thereby keeps it under control. Do thou know, O Maitreyi, that the very same immortal omniscient being resides within thy soul. Gatir Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Suhrit Prabhava Pralayasthanam Nidhanam Bhijamavyam. And also the other shloka, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hrideshirjina Thishtati Brahmayam Sarvabhutani Yantrarudhani Maya. That means he makes them move and animates them, and the results of the actions are also conferred on the soul by God.